Hey Facebook, and happy Friday. It's Sarah here, and today I can't wait to share with you 10 characteristics that separate those who get to their desired results feeling excited and fulfilled and joyful and ready for more versus those who, yeah, perhaps they get there but they feel empty, exhausted, sold out even. What inspired this live stream is a series of recent events, as well as reflecting back on my own journey as an athlete, as a businesswoman, as a mom running a business from home, as a wife, the whole 9 yards included in this. So today I am coming to you as a mindset expert, working with those who are looking to create life that they want and desire, and business is just a part of it. So let's just get down to it. And I have 3 bonuses at the end, 3 additional characteristics that will hopefully bring it all together for you. And hopefully you find value in this video, and if you feel that it pushes your buttons, then you're welcome. It just shows that there's some work perhaps to be done on your end to really ease your way through where you are to where you really truly want to be. And I see someone's here, so feel free to say hi, drop any comments or questions. I'm more than happy to support you along the way. So characteristic number 1 is fierce competitiveness. That might sound crazy in in the world that says, there's no competition, you are unique, and you are the only one who can do anything, don't compare yourself to others. And all of that is true. The only person that I do challenge to compare yourself against is yourself. The version of you were just a minute ago, an hour ago, yesterday. When you decide and when you choose to compete against yourself and strive to be the highest, better version of yourself, that is the step 1. Characteristic number 2 is the aggressive and driven mindset. Again, it's not applying to being an aggressive driver out in the street, breaking all the rules. Hey, Kathleen. Putting everybody else in danger. What it means is that nothing will stop you. When you set your mind to something, you will not allow disapprovals, doubts, even people putting you down ever to stop you. You will not allow your own ego, your own fears, your own doubts to stop you. You will find a way to stop waiting for life to hand you things, but you will go out there and create it. Number 3, commitment. And this is huge, and it brings me back to my early years when it was the first time I really wanted to quit that I can remember. And it was a couple of weeks after I started practice basketball, which must have been 2nd grade probably. And the year prior, I was in karate and I quit. At the end of the season, I was like, this is not for me. I'm done. I'm gonna find something else. Maybe. So yes, I did sign up for basketball. In the first couple of weeks, all we did was run. It was boring as hell. I was like, that's no fun. I don't want to do it. I want to quit. At the time, it was my mom who said to me, sure, you know what, we'll talk about it when the season's over. I was like, what? We're just starting it. What do you mean when the season's over? That was my first lesson in commitment, in seeing things through. And whether you're an entrepreneur or somebody who's looking to shift a career, to shift the way of living, commitment. It is something that can be trained, but it has to come from within. If you don't have it, you're gonna go into a victim mindset of, oh my gosh, life is happening to me, nothing has ever going right, I'm gonna quit. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this inner drive. When things get hard, you have this space in yourself when you find a reason, when you find a way to push through, and you lean into that competitiveness that I mentioned at the point 1. When you strive to become the better person, because the better you get, the easier it's going to get altogether, right? So commitment. And I don't think I need to say this out loud, but I will. Especially when you are a business owner, when you are somebody who helps others, who serves others. Always keep in mind that the moment that you quit is the moment when somebody else goes unserved, because you decided to call it quits, you decided it was too hard. Well, boo-hoo. I mean it. Taking the ownership goes hand in hand with commitment, because yes, look, things are gonna get hard. You are gonna fall, you are gonna tumble, you are gonna be filled with doubt and guilt and shame and questioning yourself, your own sanity, and you know, you don't even need anybody else to press all those buttons for you. I promise they will. But what it means of taking ownership is that, again, instead of playing the victim of circumstance, you are ready to be called out on your own shit. And by the way, I had a call with my own mentor just recently when I was called out on my own shit, and she pushed even harder. She said, "Can I push it even harder?" I was like, hell yeah. And it ended up being something so simple, like mindset 101. But sometimes we have to be faced with our own stuff in order to be reminded of how powerful we actually are when we get out of our own way. And taking the ownership is one way to do it. Number 5, it is a long game. Again, whether you're an athlete, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in a career, a parent even, and especially a parent, remember, it might seem you're fighting those short-term battles, right, with your kids, trying to get them on their best behavior, especially when you go out in the store so they don't embarrass you. It's not about that. What it is all about is the results that you will be able to see only 10, 20, 30 years from now. Are your kids going to be self-reliant? Are they going to be contributing members of the society? Are they going to be good, compassionate, or are they going to be jerks? Quite simple. It is a long game, and so is your own personal development, so is your own career development or business development. Whatever the goal is that you're working towards, it's not from today to tomorrow. It is a long game. And that means that it's not always going to happen in leaps. It's going to take step by step by step by step. And that is okay. But it is your job and your sole responsibility to acknowledge those steps. Every one of them, no matter how small. Because sometimes, you know, we have this misconception that, well, if I settle and acknowledge something small, it means that I'm settling. No, it does not mean you're settling. It means that you have the capacity and maturity to acknowledge those little milestones that are showing that you are moving into the right direction. And when you're not, well, then you just take a U-turn and do it again. Who cares? It's a journey. It's a long game. Number 6, that makes me smile. It's not about strategy. Sounds ironic coming from a strategist and somebody who has spent years developing strategies for my clients, successful ones, if I may say so. But here's the deal, people. Strategies are maybe 20% of everything that you do, really, because at the end of the day, it's not about what is that you do that's gonna tick off all the boxes. It's the attitude behind it of how you're going to do it. What is it you're going to do, and why are you going to do it to begin with? And, you know, it reminds me again of being an athlete. So often there were kids who would come to practice with the newest sneakers or jerseys from basketball players they look up to. At the time, I think it was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. That was the big, the top 2, right? Like I said, I'm not from yesterday. But I remember they would come to practice, they would wear all those fancy sneakers, fancy jerseys, fancy equipment. They would have a couple of fancy moves, and everybody was like, wow. You know what? Those kids are nowhere to be found these days. The ones who did persevere, the ones who went on and created a career for themselves, a name for themselves in the sport and later on in life, are the ones who did not bother about the brand on their shoes or any of those fancy moves. They were the ones who knew why they were doing it. They were the ones who were tenacious enough to show up every day, looking for perfection, looking to be better than they were the day before. Like I said, competitiveness, right? Commitment. Those are things that matter. And with the strategy, same thing. And strategy brings us back actually brings us to the next point. Point number 7, resourcefulness. You know, with my clients, it is one of the things that I make it really clear. When we set out what we're going to do and when we build the framework, we also create the boundaries. Because depending on what kind of work you do, I invite you to refigure your own boundaries and expect a level of resourcefulness, not just for yourself, but from your own clients too. And if you go by sheer definition, resourcefulness means finding ways to overcome challenges. Plain and simple, right? And sometimes so difficult, it seems, when it would be just so much easier if somebody just handed everything on a silver platter, outlined everything for you, and maybe even going out there and do things for you. By the way, if that's what you're expecting, don't waste the rest of the time here looking through the rest of the video, because you clearly are not my kind of person. So I don't want to waste your time. Go back to what you have been doing. But if you are really aware that resourcefulness is one of the key components to creating any kind of success, then keep going, because the next thing brings us to a place where resourcefulness is probably going to determine your rate of survival. Plain and simple. It comes to risk-taking, number 8. See, risk-taking, it has such a negative connotation when the 99% of people, especially your family and our friends, those who really love us, they want us to be safe. They want us to be comfortable. They want us to be happy. But as ironic as it sounds, getting to what really makes us happy and fulfilled and living our purpose and serving and creating the life that we desire has nothing to do with any of it. In fact, the shortcut to there is taking risks. The greater the risk, the greater reward. And it's not in terms of being addicted to the adrenaline, right, that rushes through your veins where you're risking your life dangling off some wall somewhere. It's not the risk that I'm talking about. It's talking about the risk when you're willing to put everything on a line for you to receive whatever it is that you need to create for yourself to get to where you want to be. Financial risks, risking comfort, risking friendships sometimes, risking vacationing sometimes while you're in the zone and grinding and working your way up, risking making mistakes, risking failing, risking losing money, and again and again and again and again and again. Like, no one sane would ever submit themselves to any of that. Those who do, those who have, those are the ones that are now where you really want to be. So again, I'll leave it up to you. Are you willing to take the risks required to get you where you really want to be, or do you want to stay comfortable and happy and safe and sound and living the life that somebody else has laid out for you? Ticking up the boxes that somebody else has laid out for you. Chasing the illusion of success that somebody else has defined for you. I'll leave it up to you. Because at the end of the day, and the point number 1, what it really is, this risk-taking is forcing you to do, is to become relentless. Relentless in pursuing what you desire, what feels right, what you know is true. And that knowing, it doesn't come from the mind and the ego, it comes from the heart, from the soul. It's deeper knowing that just is. There's no arguing with it. But the funny thing is, and again, I'm going to talk from the experience, when I try to argue with it, when I try to make it logical, 2 trips to the ER after burnout, stripped of everything that once defined me, forced to redefine myself, forced to find my own way, forced to stand up on my own feet and stand up for what I knew was right and true from the very beginning. But I was fighting it so hard that life literally had no choice but squeeze me in the corner, grab me by the throat and make me pay attention. You don't have to go through there, but relentlessness at the end of the day is that pursuing of what you want that feels right no matter what. On the other side of the spectrum, if you will, but equally important, especially when you know that none of that is meant to be experienced on your own. This whole journey I just laid out, it's not something that you are meant to, not able nor capable to experience on your own. So point number 10 is level of coachability. And what does it mean? Is willingness and ability to put ego aside and be taught or trained or shown how to do something in a better way, how to become the better version of who you were, the truer version of who you were. Be pushed out of your comfort zone. Absolutely. There's no growth within the comfort zone. And mind you, the thing that you're after, it's not in your comfort zone either. So coachability is going to be a great factor because, again, you can find your own ego, you can stay where you are, you can keep spinning in the same cycle, or you can put your ego aside, learn how to put your ego aside, learn how to manage your emotions so that you can actually stop being your own enemy, get out of your own way and become your greatest asset and get to where you really are meant and ought to be. So those are the 10 characteristics that my clients do have, and if they don't, they're not my clients, and with some we're developing them. Sometimes it gets painful. And the funny thing is, actually, like they were, when I mentioned the kids on a basketball court, the fancy ones that are nowhere to be found and the ones who are willing to put in the work and hustle and grind to get to where they wanted to be. Same thing is here. Like I said, life is hard, business is hard. When you're pushed against the wall, you have a choice. And the same is with the people that I'm seeing every day. Successful ones who have built on a paper everything that there is to create. But they still feel empty. And they feel drained and sold out. You know what separates those who stay there and the ones who are willing to make a 180 for themselves? It's the attitude and the victim mentality. Life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And you take the lesson or you take the pain. And if you are willing to take the lesson, then I have 3 more things that are going to help you separate yourself from the 99% of people who say they want something, but they'll never get there. So I mentioned earlier in the coachability part that you're not meant to do it alone. So this is number 11, is realizing and honoring the fact that you, just like every other person out there, we do, all of us, have our own blind spots. That those blind spots, you don't know what you don't know, and even if you do know them, it's like being a neurosurgeon. You can be the top neurosurgeon in the world, you cannot operate on your own brain no matter how hard you try. So this is the same thing. And it's not just about the blind spots, it's about the accountability, it's about the guidance, it's about the support. You are not meant to do it on your own. And I'm gonna kick it even up a couple of notches. It's not just having a coach or a mentor by your side for this one thing that they're meant to create or co-create or help you create in your life or business. Not doing it alone also applies to people who are in your circles, because you have heard it before, you are the average of 5 people that you surround yourself with. So if all of a sudden you look around and you're like, well, the thing that I'm trying to create, no one has done it in my circles. Yes, you can totally be the first one. It just means that you will have to make really hard choices and you will have to be very deliberate in the boundaries that you're setting for yourself. And most likely you will have to change those people around you. Go into circles where things that you're trying to create are now not only an abstract, but they're actually a norm. Bare minimum, if I may challenge you even further. So, number 11, you're not supposed to do it alone. You're not in it alone. Number 12, huge, and that goes back to, when I was explaining, comparing the 2 types of entrepreneurs after success: abundance, mindset, and knowing, and being, and feeling, and living in possibilities, in expansion, right? As opposed to the contraction and fear and lack and scarcity. There's no limitations but the ones that you create and impose on yourself. So if you, by default, choose to live in abundance, knowing and leaning into possibilities and continue expanding yourself, you're halfway there already. And number 13, the last one for today, it's not about working harder. As I said earlier, the mindset, the energy, the vibration, the outlook on life, that is what's going to help and really move you forward. Because very honestly and brutally, if working harder were the answer, the most successful people would be the ones with 3 jobs. Fortunately, they're not. What it comes down to is feeling it, right? Embodying it and becoming the version of yourself who already has and it already is where you desire to be. So, those are 13 characteristics, values, if you will, that if you do have them, embrace them. If you don't, they're like a muscle. It's your responsibility to develop them, and I challenge you to do just that. Happy Friday, and I'll talk to you soon.